Curious about the price of a Magic Online card? Try our searchable price guide on the right sidebar of any mtgoacademy.com page.
Time for round 1. I won the die roll and I'm going to be playing first. Vortex Elemental into Golden Hind. And then 4 drops. Yeah, that looks good. If I don't draw a land, then I still have green, blue available. So it's pretty much what I want. I'm gonna just run out the Vortex Elemental as well. Not that it's doing much here, but it allows me to deal with an early play on my opponent's side. Here Golden Hind is clearly better than Leaf Crown Dryad. Could die to a Spark Jolt, that would be unfortunate. Okay, Sigil Skink is not the worst. Alright, I feel I just have to Divination here. Might not be able to trade with Sigil Skink that way, but I need to find lands. I'm giving Scry triggers to my opponent, but I will also be able to just hopefully cast Nessian Asp pretty soon, and Cloaked Siren is also an option. Let's see what my opponent does here. Keeps the card. And I can't block. If I had drawn an island, I think I would just trade these two because of mana considerations. Nyxborn Triton is also a good card. And there's the land, so I'm running out the Asp. Alternatively, I could have left open all my mana in order to cast Cloaked Siren at end of turn, but I want the Nessian Asp in play sooner than later. And no bounce spell from my opponent is great news. Now I have the Asp. And an Ordeal of Nylea. Alright. I'm not sure if I really want to cast that. It might be safer to just sit on the Cloaked Siren for now. And because my opponent has quite some creatures, I'm also not attacking with the Nessian Asp this turn. It's possible that my opponent tries to deal with the Asp somehow, or to create a large creature. And I want to be prepared. Flurry of Horns, alright. I'm not sudden storming here. If my opponent attacks, I have a nice blocker in Cloaked Siren, and also the Nessian Asp to eat one of my opponent's creatures. Sedge Scorpion is great. That makes me want to put Ordeal of Nylea here, and then play the Sedge Scorpion on defense. That way Cloaked Siren will grow out of Crackling Triton range, threaten a bit of damage, and now my opponent really needs something good to get through on the ground. Okay, looks like it's something huge. Rise of Eagles, okay, that's fair. 2/2 bird tokens, opponent keeps a card on top. So attacking with Cloaked Siren here feels a bit bad, because then the birds will just trade for it. It's still a trade that I could make. I know opponent has to fear counter magic, but I somehow want to get the Sudden Storms going. I only have 5 mana, so if I cast Curious Follower, I might have the mana to activate Nessian Asp, but I think it's better to keep up Sudden Storm, and then maybe Sudden Storm when my opponent wants to attack, or maybe even after that. So I'm not attacking here with the Cloaked Siren this turn. I'd rather see what happens, maybe a Bestow creature, or an attack, and then I have all my mana available. I'm losing to Seagod's Revenge, but there's not much I can do about that. Fond of Fortunes, alright. Drawing 2 cards, probably not playing anything else. Yeah, I'm just casting the Sudden Storm on the flyers here. That way my Cloaked Siren will be able to attack, and I have less to fear in the air. They're kind of the best creatures my opponent has anyway. And by waiting one turn with the Siren, I will get in 2 turns straight. Maybe not if this is a Lightning Strike. Spark Jolt targeting Golden Hind. Okay, let's get a mana. Nimbus Naiad without the mana to do anything with it. I can play Chaos Follower or Leaf Crown Dryad next turn. Nimbus Naiad is of course a good creature. Let's see. If I have this attacking for 5, my opponent is on 11. Yeah, I could just be threatening lethal next turn then. I think I keep the Naiad, even if it's not perfect here. I'm just assuming that my opponent will not have a good attack next turn. Now what I didn't consider was the fact that Kyros Follower dies to Crackling Triton. So my opponent might actually just kill this. I think I might be interested in a Leaf Crown Dryad here, just to use my mana, but then I can't activate Vortex Elemental. That seems bad. Vortex Elemental is just quite good on this battlefield, on this board. And I'm still on 18, so I'm not really close to dying here. Which makes me think, if my opponent doesn't have a super powerful play here, then I might not actually have to go for the win with the Nessian Asp. Okay. Puts a card on the bottom. Now I'm allowed to block. I want my Nessian Asp to block. I want it to do something rather than not. I think Vortex Elemental can also block quite safely here. And Crackling Triton I would really love to see gone, if possible, without it killing one of my guys. And I'll also try to get rid of the Skink here. I might be losing the ability to win next turn by blocking with Nessian Asp here. Okay, Kyros Follower goes down. Fine with that. And I'm shuffling back a Minotaur because I didn't want my opponent to have one more spell in his deck to draw. Okay, Vortex Elemental off. His own. Now I need to draw a land to make the Nimbus Naiad live. Nature's Panoply is also fine. It's not lethal, but it's a great draw. Okay, take 6. Okay, alright. Next Bond Triton bestowed means that my Sudden Storm is going to be really good. This attack is for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm not dying here. I expect my opponent to hold back the flyers, yeah. So I'm just casting the second Sudden Storm of the game. And I don't need an island. No concession yet by my opponent. So let's create another lethal creature here. I likely didn't have to show this card to my opponent, but at the same time, waiting for certain here is also worth quite a bit when you're playing against blue-red. You never know what they could have. So a null is an option with at least 2 Nyx-born Tritons on my opponent's side, but I didn't really see anything that really needs to be tapped. I think I'll just keep it like this for now. And yeah, I can't bring in Sky Reaping because it would kill my own creatures. I think I'm quite favored with how the matchup looks like. And I'm on the draw. This isn't a great hand, but if I draw an island, I can immediately Divination, and I have a solid curve otherwise with the Leaf Crown Dryad and maybe the +1/+1 counter. Alright, there's the island. I'm running out of Leaf Crown Dryad. I don't want to fall behind on the board here. And I already have a combat trick that I might want to cast or even strive, so I need some creatures on the battlefield. There's a lot of 2/3s, of course, but I think that's still fine. I could reveal the fact that I have the Panoply, attack with the Leaf Crown Dryad, and cast it if my opponent blocks. That might actually be worth it. There's a good chance that my opponent doesn't block, and that way I deal 2 damage, and the Leaf Crown Dryad isn't going to block anyway. It's actually worth it to me, because upgrading my 2/2 to a 3/3 and having the Nyx-born Triton off the battlefield is just a better use of my turn than the Divination. I wouldn't mind keeping the Panoply in hand for the Enthausa, but looks like I'm forced to use it here. It is a good denial of tempo from my opponent. On the other hand, I wouldn't have played anything with board impact anyway, so Divination isn't really better on turn 3 than it would be later on in the game. At least not much better. And this is actually the perfect outcome for me. And I'm gonna be casting Cloaked Siren here. So just Sawfish is fine, but this is the point where I want to keep on the pressure. I also wouldn't mind drawing another land, so the Scry ability is not super relevant yet. I doubt that I'm gonna run out of gas with the cards in my hand. Alright, another 4/3 for my opponent, so now Leaf Crown Dryad has found a match here. And I drew a forest for Enthausa, so I'm just going to attack. If my opponent trades, I'm fine, because I'm getting a 4/3 out of the deal, meaning that my opponent has less scary cards that I have to worry about. And now Enthausa is threatening to just go aggressive, but I could also enchant it with Nimbus Naya just to create a 6-power flyer. Alright, unfortunately, Cloaked Siren goes down here. Okay. My opponent with the double blue, I'm just gonna attack. No need to waste my Nimbus Naiad on a turn where Enthausa is free to attack anyway. Nastian Asp is not the greatest actually, because if Nastian Asp can't attack, then Enthausa doesn't want to attack either. On the other hand, it is just my best card to play here. I think Divination and Starfish are just not close in power level. Let's not get stymied hoped here. No, that worked out quite well. I also think that my opponent probably would have cast a bounce spell if he had one. And Rise of Eagles is fine. Now a triple block allows for a 2-for-1 trade in my favor. I think that's fine. So what I could do is Nimbus Naiad up the Enthausa, attacking for 6, and holding back Nessian Asp, so that, yeah, but that doesn't really make sense. If my opponent triple blocks one of my creatures, then I'm just going to kill the 2 flyers, bring my opponent down to 6, and hold back the Nimbus Naiad to have a lethal attacker. I'm going to Divination first because I already know that I will be exposing both of my creatures. So yeah, I probably should have tapped differently because of Swordwise Centaur. But the cards I'm seeing here are also very, very strong. So I can just run out the Starfish, not that it's super relevant, and I am going to offer the trade to my opponent that I just described. It's also pretty much a forced trade. Can't really see my opponent not triple blocking the Asp here. Alright, this should be the right order. Yes, this is also fine. I'm mainly doing it because I'm dealing 4 damage, and that makes Nimbus Naiad lethal. With a Sudden Storm, I could also have played this a bit more defensively, just tapping down the flyers. And it would have been slightly better to have the Swordwise Centaur in play rather than the Starfish, I think. Fleetfeather Cockatrice. I can just keep that on top and attack with Anthausa, which should force a chump block, and then I'm just winning the turn after anyway. If I play the Nimbus Naiad on Anthausa, it's still forcing a chump block, so the difference is not great. Of course, in theory, there could be a block and a trick, but it's actually kind of difficult for... Oh, there's just no block. Okay, yeah, that's also fine. Stormchaser Chimera, it takes a lot of mana, so not concerned about that one. I guess it could kill me here if my opponent has some crazy card to reveal. That would be kind of fun. Let's see. Revealing 2 7 casting cost cards, maybe? It's certainly possible. I'm just gonna Sudden Storm so that that doesn't happen. It's possible that I also should have cast the Swordwise Centaur instead then. But now I have Anthausa, which is threatening lethal, and I can also make the Sigiled Starfish larger. Alright, so now if I play this land, I think it should be this one, but I'm never quite sure about how this works. Yeah, I don't think there's a good way to tell. So I'm bestowing onto Anthausa because that creates 2 more lethal creatures for me, and that should be enough to win the game. Could have also bestowed onto the Sigiled Starfish. Alright. But then I only would have had 2 lethal creatures. So, yeah, this was a very impressive display of what my deck is capable of, and I'll be back for round 2.